did. So, Don, are you ready to do a land acknowledgement?
Actually, I just need to turn on, if it's okay if it's dark. But yes, I am. Are we ready? We're here in Weyanoton, Detroit, as we understand. We're guests. We recognize our duty to the earth, the air, the water, plants, animals, families, with our indigenous people, like the Three Fire Confederacy, the Ojibwe, the Adawa, the Potawatomi, and the legacy carried in the four directions of sacred knowledge, united on this land to protect, honor, adapt, and cultivate with healing and harmony, peace and pace, courage and cultivation to know, understand, and use our capacity with every step and breath with our ancestors and sacred teachers like BKS Iyengar, Gita Iyengar, and all of us together in cultivation. Ometeo, Chimigwech.
Thank you, Don. Yes, we ask for the blessing from the land and our ancestors and the spirits of this land, wherever you may be. If you'd like to put into the chat where you are calling in from, you're welcome to do that. Most of us here are Detroiters, but some are not. And so if you'd like to acknowledge where you are coming from, you're welcome to do that in the chat. So just to give you a little introduction to this event, I'm Gwisak. I know most of you, I think. I'm the senior teacher at Iyengar Yoga Detroit Collective. We are a cooperative yoga studio. We're member run and community centered. And during this pandemic, like most other organizations, we've shifted all our programming online. And we've even expanded it and expanded our community to address what we feel are the most critical issues of our time. We have become more explicit in sharing Iyengar Yoga as a practice, not just for personal, but also collective well-being. We recognize that all the concerns of society have become revealed and heightened during this pandemic. And we know that none of us operates in a vacuum, but we're each in a social, cultural, political, and historical context. So we feel our responsibility as students and teachers of a transformative practice that we also expand its transformative potential to our greater communities. So furthermore, we've all been longing to be together in person and to experience, strengthen, and celebrate community together. As a co-op, our community is everything. So we're offering this event as a beautiful occasion to be together online. Not only to view these spectacular films together, but also to discuss the significance of these films and how they may relate to our mission. So the mission, as you can see, is here excerpted from our website. I hope you all are very familiar with our mission. And we're ever hoping to grow into it more and more so. So it's also the occasion of BKS Iyengar and Gita Iyengar's birthdays. Gita Iyengar's birthday is actually Monday, and BKS Iyengar's birthday is the 14th of December. So December is a very special month in our tradition. So it will be the 102nd birthday, hold on a second, of BKS Iyengar and the 76th birthday of Gita Iyengar. So I owe so much to these two people. And if you are a student at Iyengar Yoga Detroit Collective, you are also drawing from their teachings, whether you know it or not. On another day, I would like to have a longer conversation about their legacy and what it means to us in our current time and place, and how we move forward while also respecting tradition and lineage. For now, we'd like to have you experience them yourself. And we have two clips to share. The first is a small part of an interview of BKS Iyengar in his final year of life. And the other is a clip of a pranayama class taught by Gitaji in 2017, a year before her passing. So after these clips, we'll have a couple of comments from two of our teachers who've had the opportunity to meet Guruji or Gitaji. So we will start now with a short clip of the BKS Iyengar interview. All right, so thank you so much to Cheryl, who is doing tech for us.
96 years young. I don't think I should request God to let me live till 96. But even if whatever age I live, if I could be as fit as you,
Sir,
I'd be very happy.
I only tell people, live happily
Right.
and die majestically.
Right.
That's all what yoga teaches you, to die majestically.
I mean, what do you mean by die majestically?
Means very with a happy death.
Don't spend the last 10 years worrying about
This. No anxiety, no sorrow, no distress. With hope, let me leave this earth.
But anxiety is now the biggest lifestyle disease of our lives,
Right.
of our time. It's not diabetes, it's not blood pressure, it's not cholesterol, it's not heart disease, it is anxiety.
Yes, it is stress factor is there.
Yes.
So the stress factor is only stress, strain and speed of today's character. For these three, I say work, word, wisdom are the three remedies. So work means to keep oneself fit. Word means to be sincere, honest in the words, and surrender to God.
And you don't promote the idea of renunciation, that give it all up, how does it matter?
My friend, no, life has a responsibility. Life is not meant for renunciation.
Right.
Life is meant to help the society. We are with the society, we are in the society, therefore it is our bounden duty, if we have got good things, to give back to the society. So renunciation comes when I am now 96.
Right.
So why should I renounce in the early age?
You are not renouncing even now. You are very driven even now.
Renunciation means I renounce the enjoyment of the worldly happiness. But I am full of inner happiness.
Right. Inner happiness, but at the same time, your ambition, the motivation to teach more people.
Love to go out and help people.
And motivation to
Suffering.
spread your message to more people.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
That carries on.
Yes.
And how do you keep it? I believe you sleep 3 hours a day and you never yawn. I mean, I wake up yawning and I spend the rest of the day yawning.
No, I don't yawn at all, sir. If somebody even snores, I can't sleep.
Right.
So that means I am alert even in sleep. Even if I don't get sleep, I know how to relax myself. I know so many positions biologically which relaxes the brain without strain.
Without sleeping.
Without strain.
Without saying.
Without strain. So it is as good as sleep. Non-stress factor means relaxation to the brain.
Right.
This next piece, this next piece is a part of a pranayama class. So if you'd like to lie down or you sit comfortably and close your eyes, you're welcome to do that.
Close the eyes Release the forehead skin. From the top of the forehead skin to the bottom of the forehead skin, first keep on releasing as though there is a rainfall, small rainfall in the area of your body. So that the skin fiber of the forehead doesn't go up. It brings a psychological change. Your brain is projecting out because you are eager to listen now what Gita is going to say. That's a wrong approach to the class. Whosoever teaches, whether Rajakshmi, Gulnaz or myself, that change should not change. So forehead skin downward. Your eyelid, upper eyelid skin downward. The upper eyelid is completely descending. Humbleness there also. The eyes project the ego very much. The eyes always project Rajoguna too much. It's a place of Rajoguna. It's not a Sattvic. And because the eyes are not Sattvic, we need to close the eyes. Eyes are always eager to see outside. They may see beauty or ugly outside, but that Rajoguna is there. This Rajoguna has to stop. So first it begins with the eyelids. So bring your upper eyelids downwards towards the lower eyelids. The lower eyelid doesn't move, but the upper eyelid can move. And that's a chance for us to bring the upper eyelids downwards. The forehead should be such, as I said, from top to bottom rainfall. After the rainfall, the water flows towards the slope. That is nature, to follow the slope. You should not get somewhere saturated. If the water gets somewhere saturated, then we use drumstick or something to see that we clean that area so the wetness disappears. So your forehead from center to the side should have a drop. You know, all Guruji has red mark on the forehead. Exactly in the center it is drawn. So from that center line, the spreading shows. If the center line is the feet of the goddess, the surrendering process is from the sides. So from the center line, the forehead skin has to drop downwards towards the temples. So the skin drops on that side, this temple skin further descends downwards. All your breathing process, which is just going in a normal manner, should help this forehead skin to descend, the eyelids to descend. Our all anxiety will be gathered between two eyebrows. So you have to see that that anxiety disappears, the worries disappear. So you have to create this space between two eyebrows. The right eyebrow from the center to the corners descending. Similarly, the left eyebrow from inner corner to the outside corner descending. We know how to do the makeup for the eyebrows. Thin line of the eyebrow, so that we think that we beautify our face, but it's all external. The poison is in the head. The poison is in the brain. So from the eyebrows, from the inner corner of the eyebrows to the outer corner of the eyebrows, it should get dropped. It should descend to the corners. Your identification with yourself, with your ego lessens. The main object of yoga is not to identify ourselves with our ego. The ego, the I consciousness, projects itself as a soul. And that misidentification should stop. So forehead, eyebrows, the eyelids has to become humble. The exhalation breath should be such, from crown of the head, the brain cells descend downwards towards the ground of the brain cells, towards the base of the brain. The eye consciousness makes the brain cells to hit the inner wall of the skull. And that is called stress. Stress is the invited disease. We have to stop giving invitation to that disease. So the brain cells have to descend downward.
Okay, so you can take your time coming out, coming back. That was just the first few minutes of a class that she taught in December 2017, which was the last time that I was in India. And Aaron Chago and Angela Abiodun were also in India. We were there together at that time. And so I invite Aaron and Meiko to chime in and join the conversation and share some of their reflections on the Iyengars.
I can go first, Mako.
Well,
So I never got to meet Guruji, but I was, like Guisak just said, I was in Pune in December of 2017 with Angela and Guisak. And I was actually reading, I have like a notebook of all my notes from classes I took that month. And I just read through the notes from that pranayama class. So that was kind of fun to hear it in recording again. But so so I got to meet Geetaji there, but we didn't expect to meet her. Like we had been told prior to going that she wasn't feeling well, that folks hadn't been seeing her out. She lives in the house like across the courtyard from the institute where we would all practice and go to class. And so like people would kind of whisper and be like, well, I think I saw her walking out, but no one's really seen her that much lately. And so when you're at the institute, you get to use the practice hall you like go to class every day and then you get practice time in the practice hall every day. And one morning we were all practicing in the practice hall and Raya, one of the teachers, runs up and he's like, this isn't a formal announcement, but I just want to let you know, Geetaji is in her office and she's offering prasad or like a sweet treat for her birthday. And so all of a sudden, like everybody, like, don't even grab your shoes, don't grab any of your things, like run down the stairs, run across the courtyard. And we all just like lined up and she handed each of us a little sweet in our hand. And then we all were just like squatting and kneeling on the floor. And it was just a really sweet moment because, you know, up to that point, I'd only heard stories about her. And like the stories we hear about her is how fierce she is. It's like how she's like this stern matriarchal figure and she's angry. Like a lot of people talk about how she just has like this like anger and vigor and like really intense energy to her. And in her office that day, like all of us just packed, there's probably like, I don't know, probably like 40 of us packed on the floor in there. And she just had this huge smile on her face. And she was in such good spirit, like very jovial, very light feeling. And her message she kind of wanted to like impart a message on us with the treat. And so her message, it was her birthday. So like, it was kind of like, I think I remember singing happy birthday to her too. um, but her message for the day was really emphasizing that yoga is a practice for all. And and I think she showed up throughout the month then. And she continued this theme of like yoga it's not bound by religion. I see a lot of people come here who get bound up in like this idea of the business of yoga, of like the certification process, and like they overemphasize this industry of yoga. And like really it's a practice that we all just need to just stick with it, just like be in the practice of it, make sure you're offering it to everybody who needs it. And she told a story about how teachers in Pune were offering classes to domestic workers, which she didn't like politicize it at all. I mean, but she talked about like that's an effort that we're making here in Pune, is to like go beyond just the walls of the institute to offer class, which was kind of a radical statement really at the institute. I mean, that's not something the larger Iyengar yoga community talks about, is in the sense that like we often talk about it at Iyengar Yoga Detroit. So that's when I was asked to speak about Gita Ji. That was the memory that came up. And then it was a fun month because she would just like appear as a guest teacher in class. Like the teacher who we thought was teaching the class would put us in child's pose or Adho Mukha Virasana. And then we'd hear this like rustling and we'd hear like a muffled mic and stuff. And there was an elevator at the back of the practice hall because it was on a second floor. And so you'd hear the elevator doors open, and then you just hear Gita Ji's voice over the microphone being like, all right, now come up to Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then you knew you were in for it, because she couldn't like move around the room, but she would sit on the stool in the corner of the practice hall. And I swear she could see you no matter what corner of the hall you were in. And the classes were so intense, and there was like, you just knew it was gonna be a hard class. And it was hard in like really beautiful, challenging. I mean, you could just feel that she'd been practicing for decades when she taught. So it was like I mean, that would have been her last winter really teaching. So I'm like really, really grateful that I got to be a student of hers in person during that time.
What year was that?
That was December 2017. She died December
Go
16th.
ahead.
Wow.
Thank you, Erin. And
Wow.
Miko, would you like to share
Sure.
the story?
Yeah. When we were first asked about this, I had to really think about what had happened, because that was, I think, 2008 that we as a family traveled to India just to be there for, well, you were going to the institute to study, and so the family came along, and then Katya and I stayed for an extra, I think, 2 weeks. And you know, for us, it was kind of an adventure of just being in India. And I remember the day that we went to the institute I think you went to register for class. And so there's a lot of people around, and you know, we're just kind of hanging out. And I guess at some point, Guruji had come out into the courtyard, and I don't think I had really understood that the institute and the living quarters were so close together. And he like came and sat in the courtyard, and I don't think I really knew what to do, or what was expected, or how to handle the situation. I remember a lot of people being there, and everyone being like very excited and like full of admiration and respect, and that everybody, like all the attention kind of went to him, and he was sitting with his like shirt off, like after practice or something. And I think mostly I was just kind of impressed by like other people's reactions and what was going on, but I don't think any of us really like knew how to handle the situation. And I also remember someone, I'm not sure who, had asked if Katya and I wanted to take class, just like the upstairs classes while we were there, and we were like, no, that's okay. Like, again, I think it just seemed like too serious, or like it was something that we should be prepared for, or would have to really like bring intention and awareness to the situation. And now I wish that I had had the courage or the interest in like being able to be there for longer and having the experience of taking class. But I think at the time it just seemed like it just all seemed like kind of too much. But I think just even like being on the grounds of the institute, it really felt like you could tell so many people were there for a specific reason, and with like so much intention and so much respect. I remember we took a trip, like a tour of, I forget what it's called, but like Osho's weird thing that's also in Pune. And they make you like go into this room and watch a video. It's all flashy, and everybody's wearing these robes, and then you go into the garden. Again, it just looks really kind of flashy, but they won't let you go anywhere, and they're like, oh well, this is the secret temple for this, and this is off limits. And you get the sense that everybody's paying a lot of money to be at this like weird kind of resort place that's supposed to be spiritual. And I think by contrast, really being at the institute, you really felt like there wasn't any sort of excess in terms of having to look really fancy or polished, but you really felt like there was serious intention there, and like everybody who was there for for a reason, and really there to be like getting as much as possible, and like bringing their full self to really learn and study.
So, yeah, thank you. I loved hearing your perspectives. I'm also noticing that there are a couple other people here in the room who have met Guruji and Gitaji, and wondering if they'd like to chime in. Jungin, I wonder if you would like to speak. Jungin is coming to us from Korea, Seoul, South Korea.
Oh, hello. Hi. Hi, Peggy. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, I guess you can. Yeah.
Yes.
I will, it's, I'm kind of on the
Oh,
floor, so
Baba,
I will,
are you, sorry.
yeah, I'll speak with my camera off. But listening to Meiko's reflection actually reminded me of when I visited the Institute with Peggy and stayed there for 4 weeks. And it was intense for me too. I think that was a year after having been introduced to Iyengar yoga, and it was really rigorous. But then it was really wonderful to see the culture of yoga being implemented in the daily life setting, not as a form of like a fitness or like a special class reserved for a particular time, but rather as part of the everyday life activity. I remember the practice session where everybody of all levels would be invited to practice all together, and the mats would be laid out, not in any order, but whoever could find any space, would just lay out their mats and they would do their practice. And I remember like several just scenes, like this one older man who would be doing this really like advanced pose, but I remember him grinning like at such like, he was just, he was putting like his right hand was holding his tailbone, like his whole pelvic, I don't know what that pose is, but like the whole pelvic girdle was on his right hand and he was lying down and he was such at ease. And I remember like him and Peggy exchanging a smile. And it just seemed so serious and intense, but then he was enjoying being in that pose. And like, and it was just interesting because I think I more thought of it as a very serious and serene thing, but there people were really experimenting with their bodies. And I think I was busy observing actually what people were all doing, like different poses all at a time and all in their own time, own pace. And that was one thing. And another one that I would like to share is my own changes to my body over the 4 weeks. I remember that my body actually changed. And it was really amazing because I don't think I worked that hard because it was really intense, but I did go every day, twice a day, one time for the practice and another one for the class. And it was really intense, but I just felt like I paid money to fly, so I should make it. And then there was also a library downstairs where I would go and then flip some pages to read about the life of BKS Iyengar, and to know that like just small stories that do not get told on a wider level. And when I left, I just knew that my core was much more stronger, and the way I walked, I think, changed a little bit too. And it was really, it gave me a sense of achievement that I didn't know that was coming. And I think that really set my interest in yoga afterwards. So it was a really wonderful experience.
So thank you so much for sharing your reflections. So let's go ahead and shift into the second part of our program. And what I'm hoping we can do is kind of integrate what we have learned from the Iyengars and apply this sort of larger view through these films that we're going to see and the discussion that's to follow. So Dawn, I'm going to let you take it from here, okay?
So we have some questions that we wanted to ask the filmmakers. We didn't talk about who will be speaking first, or so I think.
Dawn,
Oh yeah.
we're not doing the panel yet. They're just going to introduce themselves and introduce their films.
Did you want me to introduce? So now I'm going to please allow our creative, brilliant, artistic sister and peers to offer some information about themselves and their film. Thank you.
Misia will go first.
Hi, can everybody hear me? Okay, hi.
Yes.
I'm Misia Dinea, and my film is Bi Body Positivity Black Bliss. And I've been living in California for a little over 8 years now. And I finally, in the last few years, got to connect with a nonprofit called the Quap Map, or the Queer Women of Color Media Arts Project. And I created this short film. I've created film and dance before, but this is the first time I got to really work with this organization and understand how to use my artistic and creative voice with film a little bit more potently. And so you'll see it soon. Thank you.
Yemisi, would you like to introduce yourself next? This will be the order that we play the videos in.
Oh, awesome. Hi, I'm Yemisi. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and currently live in Detroit. I am a infant mental health therapist and birth worker, and my film is called Love Infused Foods. It was a part of a submission for the Detroit Narratives Agency's Radical Remedy series. And it was basically a call to answer the question, as our communities face the dual pandemics of COVID-19 and severe anti-Black racism, what do resistance, joy, grief, and collective care look like? So my answer was cooking with my mom, and you'll see that in my film, Love Infused Foods.
Thank you. Ava, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me here. Thank you for being here, everybody. It's such a pleasure to share this evening, Detroit time, with you all. I am presenting the short film, Forgotten Networks, They Will Carry Us, which is a video of Poetic Societies, a nonprofit for arts and healing technologies in Detroit that I founded in 2017. And Forgotten Networks is our alternative TV channel with remedial content for the somatic, sonic, and scenic liberation of the oppressed bodies. Pleasure to be with you all.
Thank you so much. And Atieno.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Good evening. What up, though? Salam alaikum. Shikamo. Uribo. Nanga des. Aniwanani. I am Atienonya Kasagam, and I am an indigenous African who has lived in the United States now for 10 years, since 2010. I came here at 20 years old as a student at Michigan State University. And it was there in my freshman year, second semester, that I met somebody who was at the time my boyfriend and is now my husband, and is the reason why I ended up staying. So you've been hiding in there? Staying in Detroit, where we now have 2 living children and 2 who passed away prematurely. And the film Side Lots is a take on a little bit of our story becoming as a family here in Detroit, and how through, seeking and building a life with urban farming, we are finding ourselves and connecting again with the legacies of our people, the legacies of all our people, all of us indigenous people, which is legacy of dignified living, dignified relationships within our own selves and our families, dignified relations anchored by our relations with the earth and with life, beings of all times. I'm very happy to be here. It's an honor. Grisak is a very great person in my life. She's like a mother to me. She is a mother to me. And I came to that this year, actually, not a few days ago. Grisak, you are a mother to me. So I'm here as a daughter as well. So Mako, bump up, sister. I'm joining the family, honey.
We love to have you.
Thank you all so much. Grisak, are you ready for me to start playing the videos? Thumbs up. Okay, great. Thank you. Let me screen share one moment.
What everybody has to say, because what a powerful experience to see those 4 films in a row. I'm just like blown away. So let's just take 1 minute, 2 minutes, take a bathroom break, get a drink of water, and then Dawn's going to facilitate the panel discussion, okay? Maybe Cheryl, want to put on a song? Do you want to put on the opening song?
Sure.
Demenyoma le kojalambulo, demenyoma le sigidiala, demenyoma le kojalambulo, demenyoma le sigidiala.
Terima fila bembali le ay demenyoma. Balima fila bembali le ay deme nyoma. Sigi nyoma fila bembali le deme nyoma. Chena muso bembali le ay deme nyoma.
Deme nyoma le kojalambulo, deme nyoma le sigi diala, deme nyoma le kojalambulo, deme nyoma le sigi diala.
Jamana fila bembali le ay deme nyoma. Jamana dinu bembali le ay deme nyoma. Mama du balo teri ala deme nama. Deme jedinke jigi ala deme nama. Deme nyoma bi mogoya. Deme nyoma le kola jalani nye. Sanakuya oye demendoye jatigiya oye demendoye killing na killing wa killing ni anye killing wala tumani kele
Demenyoma le kojalambulo, demenyoma le sigidiala, demenyoma le kojalambulo, demenyoma le sigidiala.
Hi, everybody. It's Guisak on Baba's laptop, so don't get confused. But let's see. Dawn, are you ready to start?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
I just
Go ahead.
wanted to more intimately introduce myself. I am here in the house of my grandparents, so it is proper for me to note that I'm great granddaughter of Celio Nunez, Emilio Mejia Garcia, Maria de His Refugio Cordova Garcia, and I'm in the house of Leobardo Cordova Garcia and Maria de Jesus Nunez Torres, so Garcia. So here I wholeheartedly appreciate everyone's involvement and who created and shared these films. This open house for our younger community members will definitely take the fruits of these sacred creative labors and enrich and stabilize our paths. So what I wanted to do is get started on, we have about 7 questions. And the first question is, how is your film a decolonial project? And Misia, I was my heart grew like 4 times when I watched that with my daughter earlier this week. And again, you know, the poetic lyricism and flow of the story that you shared with, you know, feet crack open to peaceful possibilities, right? Can you start off talking about how your film is a decolonial project?
Yeah,
Someone else
thank
could
you so
chime in.
much, Dawn and everyone. I know for me, since there's a lot of check marks I can check off as far as how I experience oppression. I'm Black, I'm a woman, I'm queer, I'm an ancestor of Africans who were enslaved in the United States. And for me, I understood after creating this film that film is actually the most expensive art. Like, it's very expensive. It's like hundreds of thousands of dollars per minute. And you know, even with digital, like people may not be making film like the reels, but it's very expensive. So who gets shut out of that? People of color, poor folks. And I think the best way for me to fight oppression is through storytelling, through art, through showing up in my truth. And that was very decolonial for me for this film to not only am I queer, I'm bisexual, and even in the queer communities, bisexual folks get a lot of hassle because it's like, oh, you're greedy, or you're not really queer because you're not a lesbian, and so forth. So I just have dealt with my internalized fat phobia, my internalized queer phobia, all of my internalized oppression can really, I can use the arts as an altar and work through that.
Thank you. And please feel free, Ava and Acheo, if I said your name incorrectly, please correct me. And Yunisia, please also, we would love to hear your answer to how your film was a decolonial project.
I'll just kind of go a little bit off of what Misia said and just like the creation of the film itself. Like I was kind of thinking about the content at first, but just, being able to put something that I created up and have it like recognized as a film is like um decolonial like in itself. Because like I'll use my phone, I put it together with like iMovie on my phone and things like that. And like to even like hear it like recognized as a film was like really like kind of eye-opening to me. And it just like made me aware of just how Black people and just more people in general need access to be able to create, you know, things that matter to them, and that kind of changes the narrative and changes, you know, like whose art we're viewing and who gets to put out that art. So thanks, Misia, for bringing that to light.
Yes, I also wanted to thank you all for staying with us this long and for having the chat box going so active. That's very inspiring to see everybody's comments. You know, as an immigrant, my land has been really the virtual land for the past 10 years. And this video has been a way of practicing decolonization, not only in terms of the content and the craft of filmmaking, but also in terms of the form and the way of access and the forgotten connection of us to our virtual lives as we live it every day. We are very much embracing it, or even coping with the ways that it is imposed upon us. But if few of us pay attention to all the deep corruption that has taken over this land and has left such little space to breathe, to be, and to not be tracked, and to not be exploited. There are not many platforms that we could claim as healing or as free access or as safe in this time. So our video has been created on a Live Lab, which is a virtual platform created by Culture Hub with a woman resident who has been very instrumental and essential to the virtual living and practice of many artists and organizers. So although this application, this software does not have rooms like the one that we are in, it is a great place for speaking with small groups, intimate sessions, and also for producing theatrical and online workshops from yoga to a theater piece. I just wanted to give a shout out to Culture Hub for allowing free access to this open source platform and for working hard to maintain it. But also in a more aesthetic sense, the roughness, the pixeliness of my life in the past 10 years has been something that I've been very much keen with. It's carrying so much poetry to me. And also the way that it's been used for the sharing and circulation of survival tactics is something that is very important. In this video, the content is very much focused on connecting the past experiences to the next generation. The Forgotten Networks goes back to the forgotten networks of humans and bodies as healing technologies. And also the connection of us as human beyond time and space and over past, presence, and future. So the passing of the knowledge and natural ways of living out of the system is crucial for us to be able to carry on. And here I would like to make a distinguishment between the personal, individual liberation of colonization and oppression, and the collective scale of it in many bodies and many lands. There is a huge gap between the two, and there have been experiences of oppression practiced that many of us might not have necessarily experienced, but it is important to talk about them and share them with one another, so we would be able to think about the strategies that would be inclusive for people who are not able to necessarily celebrate their liberation in a public manner for many different reasons, including censorship, including active oppression, including layers of security, to the very simple human feelings such as embarrassment, shyness, and ways of wanting to fit in or deal with our fears. It is also important to offer alternatives in terms of ways of living, and especially in terms of the childbirth, which is one of the main focuses of this video. Many people might be seeking ways of doing it, and I think having a visual memory of that would be very helpful for people to be able to know that there are other ways to do things. I'm just gonna stop speaking because I know there are more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. Appreciate that. And I'm going to actually have you refer back to it in a second. Cheo, can you correct me if I'm saying your name wrong? And also, if you could please veggie back with how your film is a decolonial project.
Right. Thank you very much for your audience and for your appreciation, everybody. An honor again. So the film is a decolonial project by, first of all, I agree with everybody. The very fact that it is we who are the ones telling our stories, coming from where we are coming from communities of color, Black communities, African communities, who the world has suppressed and oppressed in almost every way imaginable for the past at least 400 years, but truly a lot more. And we are saying essentially that we are alive and that we have gone through things, and there's a lot of power really even in being able to just communicate just what you went through, however it is, whether it was good or bad. And it's interesting that even that we are denied. And not only are we denied as African people and Black people, but many of us indigenous folks of color from all over the world, we have been denied even our rights to even speak of our own things, our own dreams and our experiences. So taking back our voices, sharing our own stories, period, is a decolonization. For us, for me, for me, it was an opportunity for me to begin a journey into a career that I had desired for a while, which broadly speaking is media. I have always been fascinated with documentary style, actual productions, actually, because I really just treasure people's real life stories. And I feel even inside of real life, there's just so much richness and joy and drama and comedy and enough. It is already enough in real life for us to share and extract and enjoy and hold each other, you know? So my specialty really is in real life stuff, actually. That was my first, guys. So, you know, I mean, every layer of it really is an action of decolonization thematically as well. The work of urban farming, the work of really struggling to do a lot on a little bit of land, side lots. Side lots is in itself, is epitomatic, and of this, the fact that we are still begging for the tiny scraps of land, while white farmers in America, have acres and acres and acres and acres of land. You know what I mean? And here we are talking literally about side lots, tiny pieces of land in America in 2020, guys. There's so much to be said. I hope for the strength to not let this film go before its work is done, because I really, it's once you've produced the thing, it's another energy to take that work that you have done and to use it, because the story just started being told. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's what I'd say for that. And an opportunity like this energizes me, because it's telling me that stuff matters. Whatever happened in that film, it matters. And I can see that I need to still push this film, because not just the story, the issues are still alive and they are still yet to be engaged. That's it for that. Mhm.
Orale, that's how I also feel about keeping this as a catalyst, right? Ava, you had mentioned, actually, Ocheo, your film was all about the second question as well. How does decolonizing the body connect to decolonizing our land, right? Acheo, actually, if you wanna take that first, since that's exactly what you were just talking about, and just dive into that a little bit more, with being a mother, and then a mother of grief, and then a mother of purposing and finding our energy again, and how was the land and decolonizing tactics or elements of that?
Well, what I would say is that it's a step at a time. It's not something you can force upon yourself or anybody. And I think everybody needs to allow themselves and each other to take their time and find their way organically back into aliveness of the land or whatever, because it's all the same. We are all really plugging into the same life source. You know what I mean? And when I can give you let me say this, in the film I say, I came in, when I first heard of agriculture, I will respond to that. And when I first came into agriculture, it was not because of agriculture. It was not at all because of agriculture or any of the rhetoric of land or anything. It was simply because I had a partner who needed some help irrigating plants. And that was it, because he had to travel and someone had to water the plants. And I just did it out of courtesy. I went to water his plants every day because he was away and I didn't want them to die. It was nothing else that he had ever said, and he had tried. It didn't work. So it reminds me and all of us that these things that we're fighting for, they're in our blood, for all of us. Justice, the understanding of justice, the understanding of living well as a global nation of humans, that understanding is inside of all of us. It's inside of all of us in our own indigenous languages from wherever we are in the world. Even Europeans know what is good and what is not good, and they act like they don't. And they have constructed worlds and schools and institutions and governments to enforce a deception of, a false reality and a false understanding, because we are not okay. Under the current European domination of thought, of economics, of development, of technology, we are not okay. The world is not okay. People have been dying. Land has been stolen. People have been genocided. You know what I mean? We, the people of the world, we have to inside ourselves, our families, our homes, instead of liken it in conclusion to breastfeeding. It's sort of how no European doctor can show up and say only the white children need breast milk. Only the white babies know where the breast is after they're, you know what I mean? This thing that we are asking for, fighting for, writing about, doing this film, it is our right. It is not just our right, but it's intuitive. We all just need to do the work to help ourselves and each other find the breast. And yeah, and we will, and once we find the breast, the suckling, everything will fall into place. So some of that breast symbology, this land-based work, the physicality of it, just the contact with the soil, the contact, being embedded in that environment transforms you just off bat over time, and it transforms you beyond your control. That's what I'll say. So the strategy is, the strategy is to try and get our own people and communities as close as possible to these resources, because once they're there, the magic will happen. No one has to force it. That's that.
Like the pawpaw. Thank you so much. Ava, I wanted you to also talk about the decolonial of the body and the land. I loved how the film started off also, how Cheo was talking about with the inherent one responsibility to serve, just to water the plants, something subtle, and but we know that it is needed and necessary. But talking about also, I loved how Zoe I had said something about we're land refugees, right? Often in indigenous communities, we talk about being displaced from the land, but the story and the intimate story of the pawpaw tree coming up with the ideas of coming from the south, being able to adapt and coming up and nourishing us with all of the beautiful, delicious fruits of all of everything endured and persevered into what is us now. Could you please speak on what the film and what you brought to this, Ava, with the body as a way to connect, to decolonize the land? Thank you.
Okay, so that was for me, I hope. Land, I mean the body.
Actually, sorry, my bad. Actually, I was for Ava. And,
okay, that's fine.
And my bad, and I just wanted, because of just to respect everyone's ability to answer, if we could try to keep our answers to like 1 to 3 minutes, I think that would be good, because we got 5 more questions.
So our approach towards the land is very much not separated from the idea of migration and thinking of land in a global scale. For us, the importance is where we identify a deep relation between our localities and our globalities as bodies. And that is where we are able to trace patterns of oppression and colonization across the earth. And that would allow us to think about this movement in a global scale, and to think about how we could use tactical media such as video and film to be able to share strategies across the earth. So when we speak about this relationship for us, there is no separation from what's happening in Armenia or in Palestine or in Yemen or Syria or my country that has been invaded many, many, many times during the 8,000 years of like basically registered written history. And if you think of body as a capsule of messages, informations, and memories in particular that have been just passed on, there's a lot there to open up and be able to kind of decode, if you will, to be able to connect to the land. So yeah, I want to just finish by saying that I'm very thankful of the Detroit community for embracing me as an immigrant here, and to say that my everyday is very much intertwined with the pain of being far yet very close. And what I have found here perhaps might not have been possible in my own land. And what I'm hoping for is to trace these connections and make places that are very far, in my case, two different sides of the words and two different sides of views and experiences and political enemies, to make them almost seamlessly connected. Thank you.
The fierce and beautiful comments of these filmmakers. Misia or Misia, please feel free to share the body and mind and land connection to decolonizing your bodies and with your film.
I love African-centered spirituality, and I've had the luxury and privilege to travel to different countries in the Caribbean, Latin America. I've had opportunities to go to Africa, but it never happened. And for me, my dream is just to go to the continent of Africa, maybe spend like a year or two there and just travel from top to bottom. That's my dream. But a lot was what's the common thread of people in the African diaspora, for the most part, that ended up in America or Latin America or the Caribbean, or even like people Black people who enslavement wasn't part of their story. You have to assimilate, you have to give up your African language, your African religions, your ancestral worship, because it's deemed as evil, and you just have to be cloaked in whiteness. And I feel like that's been great. I didn't really mention, my film didn't really talk about land, but I have taken the California Master Gardeners program through the University of California. And a lot of that was about planting native plants and like re-indigenizing the soil. And I also have taken a permaculture course, which is a little bit different from like conventional gardening. It's about what's regenerative. Like, are you planting these things because you're going to feed your community? Do you want to plant certain trees and food at schools or in, elder communities? So everyone who's mentioned food or the land in the films, even though I didn't, like, that's a huge part of my practice too, is like having a sacred relationship to the land.
Yes.
And it definitely shows when you are bringing Africa in you to this space that is where we are now. Yemisia?
Yes, Yemisi. For me, I think.
Thank you for correcting me.
Okay. For me, just thinking about like food and recipes that are passed down. A lot of the food that I know we make at home, and that my grandmother made, and that my grandmother's grandmother made, most of that food was from the land that they cultivated on their own, that they, planted the vegetables, that they, grew the greens, washed the greens. And it's like a whole process, like the process from the land to our body is a sacred transition, a sacred passing down, a sacred routine. And it's just so interesting, like how that connection happens. That, you know, we are and have always been nourished by the land. And so it's so important for us to take care of it. And in turn, taking care of ourselves. It's like a circle, you know.
Yeah, Yumisi, you said in your film, ancestral spell inspired love and all of the things that we need for this time, right? An ancestral spell, that was so grounding for me, and also it brought a lot of oomph to my prayer practice when I heard that, and my, you know, what I do with my grandma, making tortillas every day when I'm with her. Yumisi, would you please talk about what rematriation means to you, as you're talking about your grandmothers over generations and continuing their practices?
Sorry, everybody, to interrupt, but I just want to say that we're almost at time. And so those of you who can stay longer, please feel free and we can keep talking. But I'm feeling like we need to kind of start to wrap up the panel, and then also maybe give a few minutes for audience, for others to chime in if they want to. So is that okay, Don? And I'm hoping that we can skip to the last question about what is the relationship between this between decolonization and Iyengar yoga, since three out of the four of you are Iyengar yoga practitioners.
Yeah, what connection do you guys see between your film and Iyengar yoga? Yeah, and feel free to sprinkle in the answers of the other questions. Actually, so many beautiful questions, answered quite a few of the questions already.
I mean, for me, I've heard a lot of other dancers say that yoga itself just like extends your dancer life. I mean, especially if you studied something like ballet or modern dance, it's really rough on the body, and there's something very regenerative. There's something very rehabilitating about Iyengar yoga specifically, because I was in the like bougie downtown area Vinyasa studios when I first started practicing yoga in 2007. But the more I learn about Gita Ji, the more I learn about Mr. Iyengar and how they were just devoted to like learning how, and just like they were archaeologists to me. Like they just wanted to dig and study and share that generously with people. And the more I learn about, even more, like the more I feel like Iyengar yoga, I learn more about the 8 limbs. I feel like in other lineages, it's really about physical asana practice, but now I know a lot more about pranayama and how that is a very holistic practice and tones the nervous system, and the Yoga Sutras and yoga philosophy. Like I get to see the very wide scope of this, like, you know, ancient practice. So that's how it kind of, it's like a, that's how it helps me. Thank you.
Thank you. Ava?
Sure. Yes. There are a couple of things that I would like to mention. The first and most is the medicinal aspect of the practice and the medicinal everyday aspect of the practice that's been inspiring for all the work that we've been doing under Poetic Societies in relation to our somatic, sonic, and scenic liberation. The sensitivity towards the female experience, I think, is very important and is very, very visible, which also goes back to the question you had for Missy Dawn. And the precise imageries and instructions for practical change. And I think that is something that's been very, very, very important to me in relation to my Iyengar yoga practice, and the reason why I picked this practice, and also in relation to how that could be something that as an essence, because we're speaking about poetry as an essence, and that's something that you see also very present in Cusack's teachings. It is the essence of the chemistry, the conveyance that takes place in the space and time. And that is how we think of art in a transmedia format, and something that is open to experimentation and suitable for daily life settings. Thank you.
Yumisi?
I think with Iyengar Yoga, especially in the Iyengar Yoga Detroit studio, people who care about yoga and about the people they're teaching are passing down sacred information and sacred knowledge. And I think that's really similar to the video I shared about how someone like a mom or grandma or dad or parent or anybody, any ancestor or elder is passing down sacred information, sacred knowledge, healing knowledge to someone that they care about. And so that's where I see the most primary parallel.
Jaya, you wanna talk about how you see your film relate to yoga, Iyengar yoga? Do you see it, or you?
Hello?
Hello. We were hoping maybe you could talk about how you maybe saw a connection or not to your film and Iyengar yoga.
Oh, wow. What a challenging question, guys.
Well, you just said Guisak was your mama.
Let me just connect it to Guisak. The best way I can. Maybe I'll say the spirit of Guisak. Let me talk about Guisak because she is my reference. Perhaps I'll say this, noticing time. This is what I'd say. I feel that for me, Guisak represents mother, a space of mothering, healing, gentleness. There is definitely a lot of discipline in her. And when I find comfort in Guisak, and in early on, even in my encounters and in my relationship with Guisak, I would use the language even of a soulmate, because I found that I was able to speak with Guisak about, honestly, a lot of damn near everything I wanted to speak with her about regarding everything woman, relationships, and truly more even than a mother, because sometimes mothers are not even available for those types of conversations, So, I would say this, that I haven't really been an active learner of yoga in any way, except for one encounter, which was positive, in 2018, in which Guisak took me into a studio at a time when I needed a lot of psychological, emotional nourishing and care. Perhaps I'll say in conclusion, I think it's a matter of the gentleness by which we have to hold ourselves and each other, and the gentleness we need in this transition. Perhaps maybe there is a discipline, because we are talking about issues of life and death, and there is a need to draw the line in the sand on very many issues. Yeah. but there is a gentleness in the love. And for me to have found love and comfort in a mama, a woman, an elder from very far away from my community, I think it's telling that the things that we are naming and striving for as Indigenous people, they are possible, and that they are not, that this hierarchy, world of hierarchy of, you know, a race being more superior and more aware of how to operate within justice and dignity, that is not true. And that we Indigenous people of the world, in our truth, we are seeking the same things, and that we can find true, deep, genuine solidarities across the races to a point where we're able even to find mother-daughter relationships. And that's what I got on that.
No, I think that that's unbelievably beautiful. When you're talking about it takes a process before to decolonize and to talk about Guisak and emulating what Iyengar yoga is and gentleness, and also creating the fronteras or the lines in the sand, or you know, the correct asana, right? To know what the limitations are, and where the capacity, at which point the limitation breeds capacity. And Guisak, would you want to speak a little bit about how you believe that these films relate to Iyengar yoga?
Well, I'll just share one thought right now, and then I would love for others to unmute themselves and to hear other voices in the conversation. But it just occurred to me as I was listening to the panelists that in yoga philosophy, we talk about the physical body, skin, muscle, bones, as ana maya kosha. And do you know what that means? It means the food body. This is the outer body, is the food body. That's what it's referred to. That's how it translates in Sanskrit. And so that we are literally like food, and that and that's what connects us to the all of the rest of life on earth, and the life force that pulses within all of us. So that's the only thing that I would like to say right now. But yeah, if others want to unmute and share thoughts, questions, let's spend a few more minutes, and then we'll wrap up and go eat dinner.
Yeah, dinner.
Hey y'all, Amber here. I just wanted to thank all the filmmakers for participating in the workshop, and I'm also cooking dinner myself. My husband's got a strict eating schedule, but what Guisak just said about food being the outer body, I've been learning that like last 8 months, kind of being at home all the time and like cooking for myself. And that's what I related to about watching the films, was like people connecting to the land and reconnecting to the land and the importance of that. And I'm trying to figure out like what I can get in the ground next year to have some more food security for myself and my family. So I just wanted to say thank you. And this was like been a really nice event. And that's all from me. Thanks so much.
So it seems like we all got to express ourselves through the chat or video. And so I think we'll wrap up now. And so Cheryl, if you want to put on our outro music, and then the panelists, if there's any last word that you want to share, feel free. And then we'll wrap up and call it a night. Thank you so much. It's so good to see all of you.
It was great to see everyone. Alyssa, do you have any announcements?
Sorry about that. Yes, Elissa announcement.
Yeah, so memberships are coming up. A lot of people have their IYDC memberships running from January through December, but if you joined at another time in the year, they'll run from that time. But a lot of people are still on our older schedule, so just keep an eye out. You might have an email coming through about your membership, so we hope that you do renew. We still have some props for sale. So if you're in the Detroit Hamtramck area, we have some blankets and we're still doing our chair fundraiser. And I should say that your membership for 2021 will get you a free strap. We're not doing t-shirts this year, but straps are always a welcome prop for yoga. So you'll get a free prop. If you are already a member and you want to have an even better perk, if you have someone come and be a new student and they fill out the new student form and write your name as a referral, you will get entered in a drawing for a basket of homemade goodies put together by myself, Guisak, and Aaron, so the owner circle of IYDC. And we would love to have some new faces in our classes. And that drawing, you have about another week. We're going to be drawing next Saturday on the 12th. And then finally, if you feel like donating for this event this evening, all of that goes towards our Solidarity Fund, which has been making all of our yoga classes possible on the community gift scale, sliding scale during the entirety of the pandemic. And also goes towards supporting our paid BIPOC apprentices. And I'm going to throw our Cash App in here and our PayPal. So if you feel like sending us anything, we would wholly appreciate it. And thank you to the filmmakers and everybody who came out.
I just wanted to share the rest of the questions Mako was asking. So our full questions, I can type it in the chat as well. Or you can access it in the Google Doc. It's also written at I think it was the first link, but they were, what does rematriation mean to you? What artistic choices did you make, and how did the aesthetics connect to your visions and thoughts and values? How do we decolonize ourselves in the face of personal and collective trauma, often appearing as pain, chronic illness, anxiety, depression? And then, do you see a connection between your film? Oh yeah, that was the second to last one I had. But what the other one that we missed was, what support have you received from your community for your artistic decolonial work? And kind of a little side note one was, how do we understand the kind of like the seer capacity of our body with patience, labor, and consistency, maybe something with those lines. But I can type that up, or you can pull it up through the Google Doc.
Dawn, I copied it from the Google Doc and pasted it in the chat.
Thank you.
You're
Yay,
welcome.
everybody. This was super fun, and what a Saturday night for me, I'm telling you.
I want to just say a few words, if I may, about decolonization. And what works for me is to think about what it means to resist colonization. What is the opposite? So, for example, with food, because that's a very, very important part of colonization. Colonization seeks to control and inhibit your freedom, your liberty to connect yourself to the land, to your ancestors, to your spirit. It seeks to control, and therefore something as basic as food, resisting the urge to go to a fast food restaurant is decolonization. Resisting to buy packaged foods where you look at the label and you read the ingredients and you know that this stuff is not healthy for you. The resistance, this is decolonizing. Having a garden and a farm, growing your food, connecting to the soil, connecting to Mother Nature. This is decolonization. It is the opposite of colonization. So whenever you find yourself in the matrix, it is an act of protest and resistance. This is decolonization. So I just wanted to point that out, that this is what works for me. Thank you.
I just wanted to also give a shout out to Iyengar Yoga Detroit Collective and everybody who helped with this event, and also for keeping this spaces for us to be able to continue checking in. This is a practice that needs support. This is a practice that we have to be able to have people around us who keep us accountable, because all of us have our own pitfalls and it's just everywhere. And I wanted to thank you, Don, for moderating, and for Baba for their powerful input. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all of your filmmakers and living and dying in this decolonial, like Ocheo said. Let us learn how to trip and travel and help each other up with our sacred practices.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Oh my God. I knew this was going to be an epic event. So anyway, yeah, let's play our beautiful outro music and y'all can have a wonderful dinner.
Thank you. Chimigwech tlasokamali.
Kabirim me kuro kuro santo Nintulubu la te la julu haula Kabirim me sila bayha Kai ngolu la sila bayha Diyanin kanula julu khali Bola Gambia, Abe bola du for la Guinée, Bora be bola Manila, Tumani Jabatela Juluha Hadi Denye. La Guinée, Abe bola du for Sénégali, Ontiora Abe bola Malila, Passe Kuku Yate la Juluha Harinta. Ali tulumala Sunyulu sisola julobe sonkola Lalo ke badramela julobe kumala lunye Kuate anu kuate la kontion balulalila Ali tulumala Sidiki jabatela julobe sonkola Batru sekula korabe kumala lunye Pasumana susola konjon balulali namfa
There we go. I'm going to stop the recording.